So, Mike McDonnell, I have been so looking forward to speaking to you. I know we touched base a couple of weeks ago, and subsequent to that, I've read your book. I found it. There's very, very few books that I've read, and I love reading, that make me laugh out loud. Funny. It's like there's one moment in it which was the Harry Potter reference, and although it's at that moment in time within the book, it's a very serious moment. It is like sort of it's quite somber to an extent, but that moment, like my missus had to sort of, what are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? I was like really, really funny. And I suppose with what you've been through, finding the humor in things must be some sort of catharsis. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know how you'd be sat here speaking to me, to be honest.
Sure. No, I've always thought that I just love making people laugh, always, since I was a kid. So when I was writing the book, I thought, you know what, like, it's quite a serious thing, quite daunting going like, this is going out to the world. This is just me opening up, and I've got to write it like really formally. And it took me, honestly, I think it was 13 times to write the book.
Wow.
Like I'd start with a plan, structuring it. Started with almost like mapping out the chapters, and then I'd do one chapter. I'd be like, no, I'll scrap all that, then redo it. And then I got to the point, it must have been one of the last times, maybe the 11th or the 12th time. And I was reading it back to myself in a cafe, and I thought, it's not funny. Like, if this is me, I've got to try and make it like a little bit funny. And like, I can, because I joke about it now to my mates, which is quite freeing, to be fair. It feels nice. Like, I can look back and be like, yeah, like, it was funny. There's no harm in that. And I when you said the other day, I thought, is he going to be saying it was laughing a bit where I was running around the ward in my pajamas barefoot, and I was trying to work it out.
No, like that sort of is. I love movies. So movies movies and books. They're like almost windows into other people's psyche, and I think you get a really good. It's difficult to. There's a scene in one of my favorite movies, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they have the point of view gun, and like they shoot other people with the point of view gun, and it gives the person that they've shot their point of view so they can kind of empathize properly. And I think what movies and books do, it gives you that very rare insight into the way somebody else sees the world, or sees a subject, or sees or the way that they've perceived something to have happened. And I think with, you can then liken it. So that scene where you mentioned, running around the ward, I had sort of Shutter Island going around in my head in terms of like, and I think we've all been in that, maybe not as deep in that state as psychosis, but I think we've been in that manic state of panic at one stage in our life where you do something completely irrational through the fact of just, you'll get it on most crashes on the road are done from something irrational, people pressing on the accelerator rather than the brake or whatever. And I think that descent into pure panic and pure survival mode is something that not many people experience regularly, but when it does, they know it's actually happened. So yeah. I was deep in it with you at that point. I was like really empathized. I said to because I mentioned to you, my mum is, she's been a psychiatric nurse for 30 plus years. And I've spoken to her about you. I hope you don't mind, because it's really interesting. And I've recommended your book to her because I think she'd find it fascinating. But I said to her, at that point, I almost was like, no, don't take the medication. I don't want you to take the medication. Like I was in the room with you, which is a testament to the way you wrote it.
Yeah. And I mean, I still look back now, and it's a very sort of controversial area, and a bit of a grey area, like that you're forced medication. And I almost forgot about it when I came out. I had to spend, it's probably maybe 6 months after I was chatting to my family. I was like, you know what, is that actually legal? Like, can you, is that within the law that you can just force medication upon someone? And that was after I looked up that the facts are that you can recover from psychosis like on your own. Okay, it's good to be with someone that can look after you at the time, but you can recover without medication at home. Generally takes sort of a week to 10 days, but you've obviously got to stay calm and make sure you're resting, and then it will pass. And I also I was like, I've got to be careful like with what I say in the book of like um
You're not giving
being sort
medical
of hushed
advice.
up. And at the same time, I wanted the care coordinators that really helped me at work for the NHS to read it and be like, we've changed his life, we've helped him, which
Mm,
they really did. And for them to share it with their patients. And I thought they're not going to do that if I'm sort of being very critical about the system.
mm.
Um, but yeah, obviously I was forced, and for those that haven't read my book, I was injected with the whatever they were antipsychotics that just it was like a tranquilizer basically. And
Mm.
like I say in the book, I just fell to the floor like a sack of spuds. Next minute, I'm just woken up in the seclusion room. But obviously that happened. That's the past. You can't change it. And when I was at that moment when I felt the worst, I was like, from here, it's just whatever I can do and what I can control in my life. Like I can't blame anyone else.
Mm.
I need to try my best to make the best possible life, which is the meaning of that tattoo, which was the day, the 12th of December,
Mm.
2019. Yeah, I haven't looked back since. Obviously, I relapsed, but the mentality was still there. So I think that's why I'm sort of big on resilience. And if I can get through that, I mean, like bit of public speaking in front of people, like 100 people or whatever the number might be, I think, "Oh, I feel like I'm absolutely bricking it for this, but it won't be as bad as that."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to be like, okay, I feel like I've been through the worst,
Do you
and
think?
now it's all about what I can control.
Do you think like most people haven't been broken down to that rock bottom? Therefore, they kind of coast through life rather than building the life that they want.
It's difficult to say, I know, because a lot of people don't speak publicly about what they're going through, and what may seem like someone's absolutely fine and coasting through life, like you say, when you actually sort of dig a bit deeper, you're like, shit, like I thought this person like had it all in check. Like
Yeah.
you think it's also like the younger generation that are struggling, but then the more I speak openly, that's why I really enjoy doing it and speak to my mates, friends, and family. It really encourages someone just to like, start talking and say they're struggling. Like, shit, actually, they're going through a hell of a lot. Um, so I would actually say no. However, there's that threshold where there's too much where your brain almost like explodes and you get that reaction, which I went through. It felt like some sort of spiritual release. That might not be psychosis, that might not be mania, it could be something else, but you never know where that is. And you sort of feel like
Mm.
there is no limit. You're like, oh, I can put up with this, I can manage stress, anxiety, depression. But like there is an actual sort of physical cap, whatever's going on like inside your brain. And it's not worth even trying to sort of play as close as you can up to that point.
Mm.
If you're feeling like things are getting on top of you, then that's where I'd be like, well, just reach out to someone like where that doesn't have to be even a mental health professional if that's daunting at first and you're scared of medication, the system, or being diagnosed. It can be like a third party organization like Mind or Samaritans, or even just someone like myself that can just relate and has been through it and that can maybe give some advice or just hear you, or a
Is that why?
counselor,
Yeah, counselor. Is
which
that
I'm
why
lucky
you?
because my wife's a counselor qualified. So and
So you get free
yeah,
free sessions.
exactly, yeah. I have to
I
maybe
bet.
cook a few dinners, but you
Yeah.
know,
Hey, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
no,
I
they're
cook dinners.
expensive.
I cook dinners for free. So, do you think is that why the motivation for you was there to write the book was the experience that you've gone through? I want to kind of. I say that because I watched recently the film I Swear. I don't know whether you've watched it.
No,
It's about based on a true story with a guy with Tourette syndrome, like in the 90s, where it wasn't nobody knew much about the syndrome and what transpires with it and whether it's controllable, and it goes through his life, and basically it turns out he ends up with an MBE because of the support systems and the networks that you put in to help people with Tourette syndrome connect and understand one another. And he was consulted for the police force to understand how to deal with it a little bit better. And I think the way I see, or the way I read your book was, it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it that sort of, when you were going through it, it just was something that wasn't, I mean, even from public opinion. And I sort of grew up with my mum talking about patients that she had, and I'd met a few of them. And when somebody says psychosis, you know, um, Norman Bates comes in your head, and psycho and crazy and killer and knife and all that sort of them connotations come up. Is that sort of part of the motivation with your book, was like, I need to
Yeah.
tell people about, it's not, like I think there was one paragraph in it where you mentioned it's not inherently a violent thing. It's generally people that are in psychosis have violence done towards them. And a lot of the time it is quite comical. The things, they're quite, from an outside looking in, they're quite
Yeah.
funny.
No, it's a good question. That wasn't the primary reason, but at the time of going through it. So like I say in the book, I didn't know what psychosis was until I'd already had
Mm.
it. Then I was like, oh, okay, like, so, but the perception of that is, like you say, like violent, killer, like
Mm-hmm.
aggressive, going to do some crazy things. But the primary reason was I started a YouTube channel because I really enjoyed, like I said, like speaking to my mates about it, and then watching them open up and seeing the experiences that they had. Obviously not psychosis, but similar sort of things. And when I started the YouTube channel, I was talking about feeling like I was Jesus Christ or like the Messiah and things like this. And the more that I learned and the more comments that I got back from people that were going through similar situations or had been in the past, people were like, oh my God, same, like exactly the same thought process. You think, wow, like it might not be Jesus, it might be
Mm.
some sort of prophet, or it might be Muhammad, like whatever religion, but it's so similar that what you go through, that you feel like you've got this purpose, or you feel super powerful and you're on a mission. But that's not spoken about. So when I was recovering and we were having like the family intervention stuff through the NHS, and you get 3 years of care after that, then all of the informational documents, like the leaflets, brochures, flyers, and videos that you get sent through, it never really sort of hit home or felt like what it was actually like going through psychosis and the experience. And when you see like an infographic or something that's sort of trying to visualize psychosis, it'll always show a 2D person like facing across, and their brains all like jumbled up. Like it's just like noodles. And I'm like, it couldn't be further from the truth, because, okay, it might seem like that from the outside, like these are delusional thoughts. But when you're in psychosis, it's actually like the complete opposite. And you're so certain of what you're thinking that it's crystal clear, like the
Mm.
clarity is there. And that's why the book, you might subtly be able to see in the background, is actually, if you open it like that, it's a tunnel. It's like tunnel vision that you're so sure. So that's what I wanted to get across. And to answer your question, to look back, it's like, yes, it was that. It was also, I thought, if I'm in that psych ward again, and there's books, there's magazines laying around, and there's sometimes like films and games consoles. That book was sitting on the side. I'd probably pick it up. That's why it's bright yellow, and it says that on the front. And you've been diagnosed, or you have been in the past, if you've been in there again. And I wanted someone to just pick that up, and I wanted the first 1 to sort of 3 or 4 pages just to be really engaging,
Mm.
and someone could go, oh, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like this is not a book like that's written by some medical professional that doesn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And then then someone can really relate to what I'm going through and going, yeah, shit, like I felt that. Like I'm I'm also perceiving the world like that, and that we're controlled by this elite, like probably are, but that's but they can relate. And then
Yeah, yeah.
once they're engaged at that point, then they can start focusing on, right, what did I do to get out of that? And then that's how the book evolves. It's like, that's in it, this happened, this was the tough point, but this is what I did at the end to recover, and this is how I changed my life. it's sort of like a three-pronged approach, and then the other part is for, obviously, psychosis affects 1 in 100 people, but then you obviously compound that up, like friends, families, and caregivers. How many people are looking after people that are going through psychosis at the moment or have done in the past? And to make it so this is a first person experience. Okay, look, read this. This is what this person's likely going through, or something very similar. And this is what you can do to help them going through it. And a lot of that is just sort of nod and agree and give them time and space. The worst thing you
Mm.
can do is disagree, wind them up, and it just makes someone angry, and makes them even more like determined to carry out this mission, if you like,
Yeah.
because you're like, everyone else is brainwashed, everyone else just doesn't get it. This is sort of certifying what I'm believing.
I mean, I feel like that on a daily basis sometimes, to be honest.
But so did I before, and I still
Yeah.
do now. It's just that's heightened, and that
Mm.
release is like, I've held on to this for so long. Like, just listen to me. Like,
Yeah.
wake up, people. Like this is going on, and can you not see it? Like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm just going to express it. Yes, you'll get. Okay, this is delusional thoughts, and then blah blah. I can say a bit more now. I've recovered and
Yeah.
had those 3 years of care, but yeah,
I think that the differentiation between, somebody thinking that the Illuminati exists and, the government are creating psyops left, right, and center is down to the fact that when you started to think that your own mum and dad were in on this,
yeah,
that's the sort of bit where it goes from almost logical, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, to whoa, like that's not, that's an
sure,
extra step. That's not the
sure.
normal
Yeah,
thing.
that paranoia spirals, and I remember standing in the lounge, and I thought, oh, like, this is tap water here, but I thought I was telling people that tap water was poisoned, and because I'd gone on Instagram live on my stories talking about what's going to happen and what is going on in the world, that was when I was like, I've put this public now. They will be able to track this data somewhere, or there's some sort of algorithm controlling it that can easily be filtered down into, like, yep, stick it in the tap water. There's drones, there's whatever, there's security cameras, and I'd shut all the blinds down, pull the curtains across, put my hood up, as I mentioned in the book, like walking around the streets. And that's when it's like, yeah, okay, like it's gone from more of a tinfoil hat thing to like, shit, like this is actually, I can't function normally now. This is
Yeah.
taking 100% capacity in my brain.
And is it so you can't switch it off? It's just it's like almost incessant, which you affects your sleep, like you mentioned, and therefore when you can't sleep, it gets worse.
Mm.
And anybody that's I know I've sort of struggled sometimes with sleep before, so I've recently, say relatively recently, done psychedelic therapy. I had an existential fear of death was the thing for me, where at 7-8 p.m. at night, if that thought got into my brain, it'd be like, oh shit, I'm not sleeping now, and I'd be in bed next to my partner, and I'd just be led awake thinking like, right, well, I need to achieve this, and I need to do this as quick as possible, and I need to do that, and I need to create this life for my daughter, and I need to do this because I could die pretty quickly, and then that's it. I won't have achieved what I wanted to achieve, and it'd have been my life completely wasted. And it used to be that existential, it'd be maybe 2 days of just, and you walk around like a zombie, and then somebody would say, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm fine." With like massive bags under your eyes and looking like a
Mm.
zombie. And then I did psychedelic therapy, which showed,
Amazing. This is what I
yeah,
fully believe in. So yeah, I'm interested
it
to hear.
it showed me things and gave me experiences that I know didn't come from me. Um, and seeing, I saw something called the grey veil, which I didn't know was a thing. I didn't
Sorry,
know
can you
this.
give some details? So first, like, was this in the UK? Was it
No,
microdosing? What were the
no.
levels? What were the grams?
So you start. This was in the Netherlands. So you start off at 2 grams generally, which is a baby dose, and you get a feel for it, and you see walls breathing, and you see some sort of spectral stuff, but nothing crazy. You get the feeling that you get, it almost comes like impulses. And the way I can sort of describe it is, whilst there's almost two elements to it, although this is the way that I see it, there's almost two elements to your trip. Is the mushroom compound almost stays within your body and kind of explores your body. The way yawning, if you yawn, it's almost like the mushroom's like, it has its own sort of sentience and thinks, oh, that was weird, let's try that again. And you then can't stop yawning. But whilst all this is happening with your body, your mind or your consciousness is somewhere completely different, experiencing something that you can't really comprehend in this physical realm. So then you go from 2 and slowly up the dosage over so many periods to up to 5 grams.
And that happens at 2 grams.
Yes. So, well, not really. You don't really go. You get a little bit of hallucinations in the waking world, but if you close your eyes, it's almost like a really vivid dream, and it's a dream that
And you
you're
still
not.
feel you can snap yourself out of it if you focus, bring myself back, and you can sort of control that.
It is very much, yeah, it's very much within your control. It's not like alcohol where you become out of control, or it's not like any, cannabis where you can switch it. You can't switch it off once you're in. You're in. It's you get an opportunity to either go deeper or stay on shallow surface level. So if you want to stay surface level and just experience like the geometrical shapes and the kaleidoscope hallucinations and stuff, then that's fine. But if you wanted to go deeper, then you set it up properly where it's eye mask, headphones, get all nice and cuddled up in a blanket.
So I assumed that psychedelic therapy was you're in a therapy session with a trained psychotherapist or counselor. They're asking you questions. It's allowing you to be in a different state whilst going through that. So I'm wrong.
No, so the way I experienced it was you would set up your trip, you would have your trip, and then you would recount what you've experienced within that trip and try and derive meaning from what you've experienced. So, for instance, and it's really interesting with your book when you mentioned the religious connotations with psychosis, and I spoke with my mum at length on this in terms of, she still remembers a client that or a patient that thought he was Henry VIII, and everybody that was within the ward was the ladies in waiting. But she mentioned quite often the religious connotations come up with that mental disorder, and the people that have never been religious in their whole entire life suddenly believe either, like yourself, that you're Jesus, or that you're a prophet, or that you have been sent by God, or you can speak and hear and speak to God. So when I think it was my 3rd session, and we built up to about 4.2 grams, I had an experience which I've spoken about before with Erica, who's one of my friends. She owns a psychedelic therapy over in California. And so what happened was, when you're in, it starts to take hold, you get waves that start at the base of your spine and shoot up your spine to your brain. It's almost like when you get a shiver down your spine, and like that. The way I can explain it is, if you've ever been under general anesthetic, maybe or sedatives or anything along those lines, when you get that feeling of like lightheadedness, and you just go, it's almost like that feeling that starts at the bottom of your spine, shoots up, and you get the opportunity at that moment to either surrender and go with it, or you can fight it and stay. And it's really difficult to surrender because you feel like you're going to die. It's
sounds very similar to what people experience with ayahuasca retreats and DMT and stuff.
It's
but
one
you
thing that
kind of do always surrender with that, right?
I don't know. I've never done DMT or ayahuasca. It's very much on my bucket list to do because of the benefits.
Should we go? Little South
I'm
America
on for
trip.
I'm up for it. I've researched it there's
Yeah.
places in Denmark, which is a little bit closer than South
Oh, yeah.
America, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I went. I decided. I managed to be able to surrender, and I didn't see anything, and this is why it's hard to describe. It was all white. Everything was white. There was no figures or faces or anything. It was just a completely white space. I didn't have a body. However, I was prone, like lying on my back on the floor. And a figure that I would call Jesus because I was brought up in Catholicism um, picked me up from my right shoulder. And as he picked me up, every single person that I knew that had passed on or passed over was in front of me in almost a semicircle. And nothing was said, there was no words, but the
Giving me
fear,
them shivers now.
it's strange.
Genuinely.
The feeling was, oh, thank fuck you're here. We've been waiting for you. And as soon as that happened, it shocked me back into the real world, and the tears of joy. And obviously because of what psilocybin does, it sort of amplifies every feeling that you've got, and that's sadness as well as happiness. But I know I had an upbringing in relatively strict Catholicism up until I was about 12, 13. However, that experience happened to me. It couldn't have come from me, because I was not necessarily an atheist, but I was a non-believer longer than I was within the sort of system. And it just wasn't on my mind. It wasn't sort of something that I'd followed or read about. And ever since then, not necessarily saying I'm religious, but it's given me that sense of death isn't the end. I know it's not, because I've been to somewhere where it can only exist beyond death. It can't be in this physical realm that we're in. So seeing something like the grey veil, like I was mentioning before, I saw this thing, and I saw who I believe my nana was on the other side of this grey veil. I couldn't hear her, speak to her, touch her. But it was a nice place to be. And then when I started researching, when you start jotting down your notes after your experiences, and you start to write down, you find out that loads of people have had this grey veil experience, which is almost like a chiffon grey curtain. And that is supposedly the separation between the living and the ones that have passed on. And ever since, so I've done 2 full courses, and the first course, I've got no fear of death whatsoever anymore. It's gone completely. It doesn't, it, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, which is, over the space of 6 weeks, is something phenomenal to sort of get over, where it's troubled me for years. And with stuff, I was reading reading your book, and I think, when you talk about the conspiracy element, and you start, it must have been really difficult for you with I think it was the relapse, where it's the beginning of COVID, and you're coming up with these conspiracies of like, oh, that's it, they're going to lock down the cities, and then it fucking happens.
Yeah.
And then, so I was reading your book, and I'm thinking, well, the experiences that I've had, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm on board with it. If that makes sense. I kind of, yeah, well, I've seen this. I've experienced this. The thing that you mentioned about us all being connected, like, you get that regularly throughout every single session that you do with psychedelics. Is you can't explain it. You try and explain it, you sound like a madman, but you just understand that everybody's in this together. We're all connected.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I have in the past, not through like a therapy session, but the feeling that I had is, when like your mates, you get those mates that say, "Oh, like I haven't heard from you in so long," and blah blah. After you've texted them or you've seen them in person, which is is great, but also a little bit it makes you feel like, oh, like, is it because I haven't reached out? And actually, no, I'm busy. I'm trying to grow a business. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like,
Hmm.
if I did that to everyone, then there's like all I'd be doing is just constantly chatting over WhatsApp. I'd never have any time for work. But I had the feeling of that when I stopped, and I was like, as in like, stopped doing what I was doing. Like I was in a trip, and I'd put all my devices away, and I was like, sitting here, you can just feel this like connection in the air or wherever. You're like, I that connection's that person, that's over there, and that's incredibly strong and warm, and you could just like you see it and like, yeah, that one's there. Actually, that person can probably feel the same, regardless of how many times I reach out or see them,
Mm,
whatever. And there's mates that I've come into contact now that I hadn't spoken to since being maybe 14, 15. And then since then, you're like, nothing's changed. And then
mm,
seeing them again, and now everything's like changed, and I'm hanging out with these people, like going on trips abroad with them. It's like you kind of make it all up in your brain. Like it's actually like separate from that, like almost like that spiritual connection, if you like. But that's all that really matters. It's
mm.
just that you get so caught up in what you're doing day to day and what people say that you almost sort of trick yourself into believing that you drifted apart, but you never did. Doesn't really matter. Like you couldn't possibly, because it's that person's energy and your person's energy is aligned. You both get on. You both like each other. Doesn't matter if what they've done in the past 10 years. Like still, that energy's probably still going to be there.
Yeah, I
Good
think
people are generally good people.
that's it. Life just kind of gets in the way with things, and it kind of brings a point to, you know, the first your first sort of episode is, um, the stress. You were a QS at the time, which
Mm.
I know that from my own personal experience in construction, they're the people whose cock is regularly on the chopping block with costs, subcontractors. Why is this
Yeah.
overrunning? Why is this not ordered? Why is this not done? And they get all the flack. One of my good friends, Stu, he's a great QS, but he's like, job's fucked. I'm done. I can't be bothered. And that, and not just in that world, but high pressure jobs. Whether it be solicitor, lawyer, barrister, anything along those elements where it's long. Even chef. It's long
Yeah.
hours, very stressful. All for this token or this piece of paper that allows you to buy something that you can't use because you're too busy earning more paper to sort of do anything with it. Do
It's not
you
even
think?
paper now, is it? It's just a number
Well,
on the
no, I
screen.
know. That's it. Does it
Few
actually
pixels
exist?
lighting up.
Yeah, be so easy. Um, do you think that psychosis is almost a symptom of modern life rather than it being an inherent sort of human affliction? Do you think it's something that is as modern life has kind of exacerbated or even
It feels
created?
like that can very much be the case. I don't know the history of it in the
Hmm.
past, and I don't know if
I won't hold you to it. Just for
no,
the
but
disclaimer,
it would
he's not. Nobody's a
yeah,
medical professional, but just hypothetically.
it would seem much more likely that that's the case in the modern way, because a lot of it, like what you were saying, I was sort of guilty of this in the book. Was saying I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm managing 70 live construction sites up and down the country. That's fine, like, but you can do it and you can plod through, but it's the responsibility that you carry. And I don't think people speak about this enough, is that I carry this responsibility for the commercial performance of this construction site. I'm in the ivory tower, if you like. I'm face to face with the directors that have to then speak to the board or shareholders of why we might have to lay everyone off. And it's like, I'm carrying that, not only trying to hold on to my job, but like everyone else in this business. And there's like five of us quantity surveyors sitting there, like, Jesus Christ, like us as quantity surveyors were on the live site, but before you had a technical stage that, and a business development stage that are doing the, um, the initial bid for the job and the quoting. But once that's handed over and live, I've got this responsibility, but I'm not out there delivering stuff on site. But Jesus Christ, like I've got to be on it with the numbers. And then it's working on the computer day to day. But in the world that we're living in now, where everyone's got access to the internet and probably got their work emails at home, or they're working from home now, you're taking that into the bedroom. It's difficult to switch off. I know people say, yeah, leave your phone outside the bedroom, charge it outside. Reality is a lot of people use it for alarms, or they even use it to help them switch off. When you've got these things in your mind, and then knowing that the next morning you've got some meeting where you've got to provide an answer, and you're sitting thinking, shit, like there's that job, there's that job, there's that job, I don't know the answer. You've got a choice to make. You either do the research, find it out there and then, or you go in and you get bollocks for it, and then you think, like, well, I don't want that. And I've had that before, and it feels horrible. I've seen other people go through it, and it's really tricky to. It may be very different in other businesses. We were going for a transactional period of, yes, we just floated on the stock market, like gone public, and there was shareholders were going for a transition period. We had way too many sites, and that was known throughout the company that what we could handle. But it's still, even if we had half the amount, those questions are still going to be there. You're probably going to be more on it with a smaller number of sites. So it's a really tricky one. I mean, it wasn't for me. I mean, maybe that job role is for someone else, but I quickly found out that I don't want to do this for another year, let alone work my way up to. I don't even want to be managing director in this industry, because it's just not. It doesn't align with what I like doing. There's a really good book now that someone recommended to me when I was at a tech conference in Barcelona, and it's called Mapping Motivation. I think the author's James Sale, and he lives down in Bournemouth, and it allows you to see. So it's really good for people that are either managing teams and trying to get the best out of their teams, or understand what drives them. But also, if you read it for yourself and you're not sure if the role that you're working in at the moment is right for you, you kind of don't feel it, but you don't know what you might want to step into. And everyone says, follow your passion. And you think, well,
What's
my
my passion?
passion's, yeah. What do I do at the weekend? I don't earn any money.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one. But what this does is there's 9 there's 9 different motivation cards, and in the book you can like put them in order, and that gives you sort of 70% accuracy about the top 3 drivers. But you can also, if you've bought the book, there's a code that you can put on a website and do the full quiz, which I think gets over like 98% accuracy of what those drivers are. But the top 3 for me were like freedom, creativity, and the third one was like the financial. I think it's financial or something like that. Like money's a driver. And then if I would have had this at the time, or when I was in that role, I could have been like, well, now let's use some sort of large language model, ChatGPT or whatever, to go, these are my 3 drivers. What jobs would actually fit this criteria best? And then I could pick from those. Whereas at the time I was just like, I quit. The only thing that I could possibly do is go freelance and run my business, or to run any sort of business, because that feels like I'm in control and I haven't got to report to a boss. But that isn't necessarily the case. Like, if you're working for someone, but that manager understands you and something's fulfilling in that role, then things could be very different. Whereas before I was like, yeah, everyone needs to kind of work for themselves. Who wants to work for someone else? But a lot of people like that, and the stability. So yeah, that book will definitely help.
It's difficult. That stability element it's the trade-off that you make. And I must admit, like, I've worked for people for countless years, and I've worked for myself, and I've ran my own company within construction. And I think it's, it is technically right to say that when you run your own company or you work for yourself, you don't have a boss. No, you don't. But your client who you're doing work for, very quickly becomes your boss, because they're the people that are paying you. Yeah, they're the people that are paying you, and you've got to sing and dance to their tune. Otherwise, you don't get paid. Therefore, you can't pay your staff, and so on and so forth. So,
and at the same time, you probably want to over deliver because you're trying to get referrals, and then otherwise you're not going to get them, and then you sort of suffocate yourself. So, and then it's a very good point.
that element of, taking your work home with you. I know I've been on holiday with my laptop and my daughter and my missus, and I'm poolside with a beer at the time. I no longer drink, but with a beer at the time, answering work emails, on work calls. And when I look back now, considering what I've been through since that moment, I it's almost, I want to sort of grab myself by the scruff of the neck and, what the fuck are you doing? Why will you just stop? You're missing out. You miss out on things that matter. Um, and you mentioned then about financial being one of the big drivers, and that used to be the driver for me. Um, Regardless of, I didn't care what I did as long as it made as much money as possible. And it
Just
really,
on that,
and
do you mind? Is it possible that I could just go for a wee?
of course you can, yeah. Yeah, I forgot to
We
mention
cut
that
this
at the
bit out.
beginning. I did
Oh, cheers,
forget
mate.
to mention that. Yeah, go. Well,
I
I'll wait for you,
realise.
don't worry.
Cheers. I realised I've had a cup of tea and a glass of water, and I'm thinking we could be on this for a little longer. But it's
Oh, it's murder. But yeah, anytime, just pause and off we pop, yeah. No
cheers,
worries.
mate. See you in a sec.
All right,
Back.
we're back. We're back in
Cheers
the
for
room.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
I just need. Yeah, that's fine.
Can you hear me? All good. Right, and we're back. Yeah.
That's better.
So as
Yep.
I was
Yep.
mentioning, so money, when I, probably for the past 10 years, money was the thing. That was the, so the second episode that I ever recorded was with a lady called Kathleen Hartley. She still is to an extent, my life coach 5 years before. So a very scary episode because she knows every little sordid, dirty, horrible thing about me and my life, and then all the good bits as well. But when I first met her, the biggest motivation, I wanted to be the first millionaire within my family. That's it. Don't give a shit how. That's where I'm going. And then we did an exercise, and I've mentioned it before, and I think everybody should do this. And it's kind of similar to that mapping motivation, like you mentioned. It's called 7 Levels Deep, and it's finding the root of whatever you think what you think you want. It finds the root of why you want it, or in my instance, changes what the goal is. So the reason why I wanted, so the whole premise of it is, I wanted money. I wanted to be a millionaire. And you ask yourself, why? Why do you want money? Why do you want to be a millionaire? Well, I want to be able to, if I want to go on holiday tomorrow, I want to be able to just go, yep, let's book it. Let's go. If I want to start a company on an idea that I've had, I want to be able to go, yeah, here's the money. Let's get it done. Let's get it started. So, but why do you want to do that? Well, I want to do that because I'm creative and I'd like to get my ideas out there and I want to go and see the world. Yeah, but why do you want to do that? And you go 7 levels deep. And it turns out I didn't want money. I want freedom, which was one of
Me
your
too. Yep.
motivations. And I
Yep.
want to be free to pursue and do anything that I want to do when I want to do it without any limitations. And lo and behold, money isn't the only route to that goal. There is several other routes to freedom that you can do. And one of them, in essence, is almost relinquishing your reverence and your respect for money. Money doesn't mean a thing. Money's just this inflow and outflow of energy that doesn't really matter. Focus on what makes you happy. If you put happy as a currency or happiness as a currency, I am hell of a lot more rich than I ever have been in the past because I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And that sort of perspective shift is so good for people to. It's such a good exercise for people to do. And that book that you mentioned, Mapping Motivation, I'm gonna have a look at that because that's it. It's like with AI, and we mentioned before we started recording how important I think, and I think yourself as well, AI is in this modern world, and I've spoken about this with a couple of people now, that AI over the past 12 to 18 months has helped me, even though I had a pretty decent relationship because of all the therapy and stuff that I've done with myself. AI has helped me cultivate such a healthy relationship with me rather than anybody else, because I get to bounce, somebody that's mind fires at 500 miles an hour. I get to bounce ideas off something that's non-judgmental that will also be honest and say, I don't think that works. I don't think that works. But I get to get it out of my head.
Yeah, and you say all these. Obviously, I've done this myself, and you say all these words. You say exactly the more honest you are, which is a good start. It then puts a label on it, and
Mm,
then it explains that okay, this is not you. This is what this is. This is what you're experiencing. Seeing that from the other perspective, you're like, shit, that's so right. It's bang on. So what can I
yeah,
do about it? And then it's like, yeah, do this and that. It's incredible.
it's
I mean, like
so
I said,
good.
my wife is a qualified counsellor, but it doesn't stop both of us from using it.
Yeah, like it mentioned to me at what like I'm bouncing ideas. I've got like a project that's basically just ideas, and it's literally maybe 2 a.m. and when I wake up and I think, oh, that's a well good idea, and I instead of jotting it down on a pad now, I just write it on AI, so it's there for me in the morning. And it came up with, I think you've got a polymathic brain. And
What's
I'm
that?
like, what the hell's that? And then that's when I'm searching into what
Maybe
polymathic
I've got
brain.
one of them.
A bit, well, basically, it's
Wouldn't be
just somebody
surprised.
that can hold multiple thoughts at once in a productive manner. So, in essence, most entrepreneurs will have a polymathic brain because they might have several businesses that do several different things, but they can run them all at one time. So, whilst they say they've got a construction company and a florist, then they can take a call from somebody at the construction company and solve a problem or do something for that. And then the next minute, they're on the phone to the florist saying, oh, well, we need to order this much tulips in from this place. And it's that sort of multitasking management, which is, and I'm thinking, when it diagnosed me with that, I'm like, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes you feel like you're not going round the twist to an extent. You're not floundering, you're not doing anything wrong, you're just not in, you maybe not. I don't have anybody within my circle that operates the way that I do. Even my partner, she gets frustrated with me because it seems to her like a bounce from X to Y to Z and then back round to A again. So yeah, it's
That's
so
why it's great to connect because
mm,
the more I've learnt as well and connect with others going through similar experiences to me is that it's something like 10% of entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs have bipolar 1. Obviously, there's two types of bipolar. There's more, there's like cyclothymia as well, but the majority of people that have been diagnosed either have bipolar 1 or 2. And I didn't realize there was a difference between the two either. Bipolar 2 is what you typically think, or what I typically thought is that your highs, your lows, that could range from hours to days in those cycles. Because I was like, I don't have that at all. But I actually found out I got diagnosed with bipolar 1, which means that I generally have this sort of mild form of mania going on, that my brain's working a little bit more on overdrive, energy levels are increased, more creativity. But what it can be, it can mean is that if I um, change some lifestyle factors or like a lack of sleep or drinking or drugs or whatever, stress, then I can move from this mild level of mania into this hypermania and then mania being the psychosis. Um, but if I control those things, then I'm sort of working on this extra level. And when I explain what my life is now, even though I've got those things, those external factors under control, and I speak to people that have bipolar 1 and also are running businesses, they have the same thing. And you're watching on Andrew Huberman or whoever, Tim Ferriss, saying that, okay, yeah, you need 8 hours, 7, 8 hours sleep. You need to wake up and then get direct sunlight. It's like, no chance. I cannot
no,
control this whatsoever. I mean, I've learned more recently that when I realize I'm waking up at 2, 3 a.m. and staying up and my mind's active, like I'm actually really like loving it because I feel super productive, got all these ideas, and like I say, using AI tools now, you can actually get moving on those things. But the people with bipolar 1 actually have that are light sleepers generally, but
mm,
if you look at the moon phases, there's a little bit more light coming through the blinds. When there's a full moon, I've started tracking the past 3 or 4 months. Bang! It must be this. Why am I not sleeping? I look at the moon cycles or moon phases, and I'm like, there we go. It lines
that's
up bang on with
it's
that.
You know what? I've found it recently, and I've upped my vitamin D3 dosage recently because I've started feeling that it's not almost depression, but it's like, and I know people talk about depression where like it's almost like the black cloud, like that pathetic fallacy, black clouds follow them round, and it's raining all the time, and it's that miserable sort of sludge that they can't. I've been there, um, but it's a little bit more drastic than lack of motivation. It's just getting up and brushing your teeth in the morning. It's a mammoth. It almost feels like running a marathon. And then I started looking into this. Throughout winter, a lot of people get this feeling because of the lack of sunlight, the lack of D3, and I take that regularly anyway.
The
Um,
sad seasonal affective disorder.
that's the one, yeah.
I did a
And
video on this on YouTube, and
yeah,
even so, there's studies have shown that even polar bears have the same thing. So
it is, and ultimately, I know during summer, like up at 5 a.m, ice baths, happy days, on to the next
yeah,
thing. Yeah, brilliant. But then during winter, one, you don't want to jump in an ice bath because it's fucking freezing
oh
anyway.
no,
But that sort of, there's no, you're waking up and it's dark, and then you do all your tasks, and then as soon as you see your family again, it's dark, and it's just it's going to have an effect on somebody at
massively.
some point.
Massively. I
But it's
struggle through the long winters, and that's luckily now we've sort of got that a bit more freedom, my wife and I, that we're like, well, if we know this is a problem, let's break it up, let's travel, let's go to
mm.
Southern Europe or somewhere like that. And because it really does affect me, and it just feels like it goes on far too long.
especially in this country.
Yeah.
just because
You're
I'm
like
just that
March, April,
touch.
like when's this gonna end? You get a
Yeah.
glimpse and then it's gone.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that you can liken your sleep cycles to sort of the phases of the moon as well.
Mm.
That's
So what's helped me massively since, because throughout the summer, and I don't know why, I seem to be able to. I don't know if it's because we're out more active during the day, and even like a bit of exercise at night or outdoors, like playing rounders or whatever.
mm.
I could sleep with the windows open, the blinds, curtains open as well, absolutely fine. And when it came through into autumn, I started to struggle sleeping again. I was like, "Oh, this is like really." So, in Feb now, and this got me up to early January, and I was like, "This is some." I don't know why. Is it the lack of light in the day? Is it that my sort of circadian rhythm doesn't know when it's nighttime? I'm not feeling quite as tired. Is it the screens that are tricking my brain into thinking that I should be? It's sunny outside. It should be awake. The blue light. And then I started, like I said, to track the moon cycles, and now I I've put the blackout sheet blind that we have back over the window, and then the curtains over the top of that. Since I made that change, I started sleeping much better. It's not perfect. I still
No.
wake up sometimes 4 or 5 a.m. and my mind's like, "Let's go, let's do it again, let's get back on this." But I like it. I'm just like, yeah, that if I'm really tired with a point where I'm like, it's really affecting me, it's affecting my performance. Luckily, where I can manage my own time, I can be like, right, I'll have a nap at 11 a.m. and it's
Mm.
beautiful. And
Yeah,
I do that most days I feel tired. So
it
that's
is. I
great.
mean, I think as soon as you start getting to a certain age, that sort of mid-morning nap is fucking a beautiful thing.
It
It's
is.
one of the best things going. But
Yeah.
I must admit, my bedroom is black, all of it. I've got black
Mm.
walls, black wardrobes, black carpet, black bed, blackout blind, and when you close the curtains, that's it. You can't see an inch in front of front of your face. Since I've done that, that is so important to like a really good. And I even
Yeah.
sleep with a mask on as well, so
Me
I've got a
too.
sleep
Yeah, of
mask as
course. Should
well,
say that. Yeah, that really helps.
and it's such a good. And I can tell with every, whether it be brain fog, whether it be motivation, whether it be exercise, because I play football and hockey. Um, is It's so important to me to get at least 7 hours I need at least 7 hours. And I've tried the 5 a.m. club, and I've tried this, and oh, you only need this. And I'm just not that person. I'm very much a night owl. So I can stay up till 1 a.m. and then wake up at 7, 8 o'clock and be okay. But I can't do the early morning bit. I could stay up late, but I can't do the early. It's just not in me. But I think then when you, like you said, you see all these, Andrew Huberman and all these sort of influencers, and like Andrew Tate and people like that. Like, if you don't do this at 5 a.m., then you're a loser, and you can't do
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
it's like, people are different for a reason. It's what makes life interesting. I haven't said this. I'm currently writing a book at the minute, based on my experiences, and it probably be in the self-help category to an extent. But one of the things that I'm calling out in it is this sort of self-help industry of everybody saying, well, if you do these 7 things, then you're going to be as rich and as successful as I am. And if you follow these 12 rules, then you're going to be successful in this area of your life. If you want to talk to women and get yourself a wife, then if you do X, Y, and Z, then you could be just like me. And through whatever experience I've gone through, I look at that and it just screams bullshit. You're lying. It doesn't work. And the preying on hope of these people that don't have the same physique, don't have the same mindset, don't have the same opportunities as these people that are writing this book. And then it's almost that the upselling of success of like, well, if you pay me £500, here's a car tire. That's brilliant. It rolls and everything, but I could do with another 3. Oh, well, if you want the other 3, then it's $6.99. And I tell you what, I'm going to do it you for $5.99 because you've already bought one. Well, I've got these 4 now, but I could do with like a chassis or something to sit on whilst these roll. Right. Well, if you want that, then it's this much money. And if you want this, and if you want a steering wheel, then we can add on this much, and it's this much money. You very rarely ever get the full car. It's always sort of just a little bit extra, and you pay a bit extra for this indicator, then that indicator.
And the circumstances, like you said, the opportunities are very different. You don't know what their family's like, inheritance, or what their
Exactly.
clients were like. They recommend how much was that? How much of that was luck, or how much of that? For example, I'm running a marketing agency. Okay, you had your success 10 years ago. That's not going to work now.
No.
There, no way. So why? And I was caught in that same position. I thought I was investing in this, that, or these communities, these courses. And I thought, you know what? Like, I'm just going to trust myself.
Hmm.
Like, I know I'm smart enough to just work it out. But what feels right to me, the person running that course that wants 597 a month. It always ends in a 7, doesn't it?
Yeah, just
If
that
it ends in a
cycle.
7, that's your bullshit signal.
I don't know how I don't understand how people still fall for it in terms of like the 99.99 or 97.99, and people say, oh yeah, it's only 500 quid. No, it's not. It's closer to 600 than 500. Like, what? It shouldn't work on anybody anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really frustrating for me because within.
But you know that they've had this, so they've built their business, had a big exit. They're like, got this payout now. Oh, yeah, I should probably do coaching, and just because I've got nothing else to do, and I'll make this tick along. This is what I can do, and that just feels like the default. And more people are doing that, but
loads of people are doing it, and
people are spending a lot of money and not really getting anywhere with them.
Exactly, and it's not to say that what they say, people like Tony Robbins and stuff. It's not to say that they don't add any value and they don't make valid points. It's just stop with the bullshit around it all. Just make the point, help somebody if you can help them, but don't say that you're going to fix their life because you don't know this person. One of the whole premise of the book, and if I ever finish it, is the life that anybody wants is very, very simple. It's so simple to get there, but it's just not easy. If you want to quit smoking, it's simple. Just stop smoking. It's not easy. It's going to be very, very difficult, but it is very, very simple. Just don't smoke another cigarette. That's how simple it is. And breaking it down to that point where people either make excuses for themselves or make excuses for things of like, I know somebody that is overweight, and I said, right, well, I do intermittent fasting every now and again. So I do a 3-day or 4-day water fast every 2 months. And I said, right, next fast, do it with me. I said, we'll do it together and we'll support each other, because right now I do it on my own and I get to day 3 and I want to kill somebody because it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
I've done
let's
that
do it
before when I was ill, and it is really different. But it works.
It's so good
Works.
for you.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the last word left my lips, it was like, oh, I can't do that. Why? Why can't you do? Oh, well, I've got low blood sugar. I'm like, well, is that have you got a medical have you got a medical diagnosis for that, or are you just backing out before it's even begun? And things like that, I don't care. It's my podcast. I can say what I want. My missus says I hate fat people. I don't hate fat people, just for the record. I just don't like people that moan about being fat, because they have the power to do something about it. Like, one of my favorite things when I go to the gym is seeing a big overweight person in the gym doing something, because for me, it's almost that little fist pump moment of like, go on, get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me more motivated, because it's like, if they can do it,
Yeah.
then why am I moaning about coming to the gym? And I think through all the experiences that I've gone through over the last 8 years, and maybe you can testify to this, is you've got less tolerance for the nonsense. And for
When you were saying that, I can completely relate to what you were saying about is the frustration of that. You can do it. You know what to do. The information's in front of you. It's there. It's free. Like, obviously we've got access to anything now. It's just a lack of discipline and consistency.
Mm,
But what I've learned recently, I don't know if you've heard of the Mel Robbins, the Let Them theory, that
yeah,
book. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. Give that book a go. I heard some really good things, and I started reading it, and then it talks about one of the TED Talks that she was on, and I watched the TED Talk, and I thought, oh, you know what, like, this is actually like a bit of me. She talks a lot of sense. And then it sort of led on from that, which the TED Talk she did was about, maybe I think her first book or a previous book, and then she spoke about the Let Them theory. So this could enable her to feel this way, but there was still this problem. Don't want to spoil it, but what that book explains is, like, obviously we feel this certain way, is that you can always pull yourself into worrying or trying to influence people to do this and that and encourage someone and test them. We burn our energy out and nothing changes.
mm.
Whereas if we go, okay, I can just focus on myself. And yes, you can do a little bit of encouragement. If that doesn't change, like, right, that's it. Well, that's your choice now. And it's quite freeing, and you can apply it to that. And there's most things in life. And you're like, actually, and you look back, and I look back now of how I've acted the past month compared to the month before. And I'm like, before I would have, like, followed that up. Like, it could have just be
Mm.
something as an email, or got pulled into that, or really tried to drive someone. And I'm like, no, like, I just should focus on my own things. And if they want to get there, if they don't, then they can worry about that. And it's really good. I would
I like that.
100% recommend it. Yeah.
Just like that.
It gets. I think you only really need to read or listen to the first 3 chapters, and you get it. And it starts to sort of phase into being a little bit sort of more targeted towards mums. And I couldn't really relate. And I was like, but I get the point, and I don't need to read anymore. And I've taken what I need to. And it's really good.
That's the thing. I think that's a lot of people. You see it now. Like, a lot of people get so involved with things that, in essence, don't really matter. It's not a. I see it now with politics. It's crazy. The world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, and then I got to the realization. It was funny. So we were speaking before about the podcast. This sort of came about when Putin invaded Ukraine in 2021, was it 2022? Can't remember. 23.
Mm.
And I was so frightened. I was worried that the news does what it does, and the big red button and nukes and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, like, holy shit, here we go. This is it. This is the beginning of the end. World War III's coming. We're all going to get conscripted, and then the world's going to get blown up by maniacal idiots. And I ended up, that was my second course of psychedelic therapy at that stage. And one of the sessions, the message that came through was basically you either have to put up and do something about this, or you have to just shut up and just get on with your life. So I decided at the time to shut up and just try and ignore it and get on with what I was doing. And then certain things started dropping into place, and lo and behold, that was kind of the catalyst for this podcast. And that was where it sort of came from, of just speaking to people and highlighting issues and trying to create a window on a part of society that most people don't really get to see. So people like Dean Hall, who I've had on the podcast, he's a 2-time cancer survivor, 2-time world record holder, all through natural means. So he had CCL, which is CLL, chronic lymphomatic leukemia, I think that's, and he had lymphoma, and he had a dream to swim the Willamette River, which is 183 miles in like 0-degree water, freezing cold. And
Wow.
he did it. I think it was 18 days he did it, swimming like miles and miles a day. This was whilst he was really, really ill. His doctor thought he was going to kill him. After 18 days, he did blood tests, no leukemia anymore, completely healed. And his doctor said, if I hadn't have known that you had it previously, before starting this, I would have said you never had it in your life, which is phenomenal. Like, not many people, like my mum, who was a medical professional for all her life, had no idea of this person's story. And then I come across people like yourself and your story. And I think, I look at it and I think, I thought, like I said at the beginning, psychosis was something dangerous, was something that was, you see straitjackets and padded walls and loony bin, and that's the mental image that it gives you. And then when I've obviously researched you and looked into you and read your book and stuff, and I think, well, it's not that at all, in the slightest. It's in essence, and not to minimize what you've been through, but it's not that big of a deal, really.
No, but when you understand that, because a lot of it is like once you've been through it, the initial 6 months after, you're so terrified of having it again. That being so terrified about it is probably working against you, building up that chronic stress that you're more likely going to relapse. If you actually look back, go, it's not even that bad. And I watch, what's the guy's name on YouTube? Art of Accomplishment is the channel. And it's absolutely brilliant because it's like you can watch it and you're having a therapy session yourself because you can really relate. And he goes, well, let's just go back into that moment rather than building up that resistance and not allowing you to think about what that was like. Let's do the complete opposite. Let's go and say it out loud. I can't wait to go back there. I, I can't wait to be sat in that room and people are outside that room screaming and like calling for a fight and saying they've seen wolves outside their window and screaming for like people to come and like take them away and like all this stuff. Like, I can't wait. And it's just so nice to be like, it's actually funny. And just to go back to what you were saying there about the guy that's sort of fully recovered from cancer. We maybe have to be a little bit careful. We might be taken down. We'll have to put this on Rumble or something.
There's always a disclaimer on every single episode of mine.
Yeah,
a disclaimer.
great.
I'm not promoting anything.
But my view on that as well is I watched years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. I think it's a Netflix documentary. I think it was something about like the Big C or something. that is so interesting. I don't think it's on there now. I know Netflix obviously brings stuff. It might be on there for
Of
a few
course.
months and take it off, but you'll be able to find it somewhere online. And that explains that, yeah, once you've got cancer, it could be like it's not the end of the world. Cancer lives within all of us, and it's just the inflammation of cells. And you can ride that wave and change your lifestyle, do this and that. And here's some actual real life case studies of people that have done this, and then their cancer's gone. And that's, you're like, shit. It starts to make you sort of question as well, like big pharma, like controlling things and it being a money making thing. Obviously, tinfoil hat stuff, but yeah. But it makes certainly me more conscious of what I'm putting in my body and the lifestyle that I'm living. Because I'm
I
like, I
think
can just minimize that. That's the reality. Like, okay, I might get it, but all I can do is like control what I do day to day.
I see that a lot. I think there's probably the last 2 years, there's been a massive surgence of people being a lot more conscious about what they consume food wise, and for the first time, I think last year, alcohol consumption. Um, there's less people consuming alcohol than there is consuming alcohol for the first time in God knows how long. I think it's like 52 to 48
Yep.
percent.
I've
Which
just gone 3 years sober, but and then
congratulations.
you say congratulations, cheers. I've done the 3 years, and we allow ourselves a drink or two every now and
Which
then, like
which is
really
fine.
healthy.
I
I
mean,
have more
I'm
respect going through it of people that could do that on a night out and then go, right, that's it on alcohol freeze.
yeah,
Those people inspired me more because I'm like, yeah, it's not so bad, like one or two beers, but like, and then to be like, no, that's enough. Like I've got what I want from it.
yes.
That is real strength and courage to do that. So I thought that's inspired me. That's the next challenge. So
Well, I'm on nearly 6 years now. I've not touched
wow,
a drop, and
wow, good for you.
and I probably won't do it again, and not
No,
through any magnanimous sort of thought process, but
it's
in
just
fact,
poison. It's just poison.
yeah.
A little bit of poison, depending on what percentage you have. But
And don't get me wrong, like when I used to drink, and if I decided like I'm going out this weekend, it would be hard. It'd be like, right,
yeah,
we're drinking, we're not stopping. That's it. And
11
other
beers and that's it. And then we go on the shorts.
and other recreational substances sort of made their appearance. And I decided to start. I was on a hockey tour. And for those that, it's kind of like a football tour or a rugby tour, I should suspect, but it's very similar. You turn up on a Friday, you start drinking. Saturday, you wake up and one of the rules on our tours is you have to have an alcoholic beverage before 9 a.m. So yeah. And then Sunday came around and Sunday came around and I was sat there, I was like, I'm done. I've done this for 17 years. It's fucking boring now. I don't get anything from this anymore.
You just
It,
become numb to it, don't you? It doesn't
yeah.
do anything anymore.
And I just thought, that's it. I'm done. And ever since then, just not bothered, not touched a drop. And
Yeah.
got to that point now where I was walking out here, I've got a drinks globe in the corner and I was with nothing in it. Nothing in it. But I was walking out and that's where I used to like a whiskey and a red wine. And I was walking out here the other day and my mouth salivated thinking about a glass of whiskey. And it gets to that point where it was like, oh, where's that come from? That's surprise. It surprises when you crave it. But relating it back to, your experience and obviously your recovery, like you mentioned, do you think it plays a big role into what you put in as to what you can get out psychologically and physically?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I used to be very health conscious, but more in like the how I looked aesthetically.
Hmm.
Um, Early 20s, obviously before the psychosis. And then I started to pay a little bit more attention to, okay, like why am I having chocolate flavored whey protein? Look at the artificial sweeteners in here. Let's slowly move away. Like let's go for like the more whole fats rather than fat free. But that was only minimal. And then it was when we were living in London at the time. So it was probably a year after, maybe 18 months after I got released from hospital. When I sat down in a library because at the time I was personal training, online coaching. That was like my sort of second business that I decided to do after obviously being unemployed completely, which meant I had loads of time on my hands. Whilst my missus was out at work in Regent Street, like all day, long shifts in retail, I was like, well, I could prop up in this library, I can learn a bit, I can do a bit of remote working. And I found a book on bipolar. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to like try and read it. And it was, again, one of them more like written by a professional. But it had a part in there that was about brain food. And that's when I was like, well, let's try it, because I get these mood fluctuations a lot. And that generally seems to be when I've had more sugar or processed foods, or highly processed foods like the bread and refined carbohydrates. And that obviously creates the highs and lows that you want to try and avoid. So it's talking about more complex carbohydrates and more complex molecule structures. It breaks down slower, which I kind of obviously knew that anyway. But what I didn't do enough was the healthy omega-3 fats, so like the fatty fishes and the decent quality olive oil and
mackerel.
Yeah. Have it.
It's good. I
used
like
to have it every
eating
day,
it,
and I probably had once or twice. Yeah,
but it fucking stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. Whole sort of organic eggs and your nuts and avocados and everything like that. And that is obviously fueling your brain, like the omega-3s. And I learned about, okay, you shouldn't be having too many omega-6s, but trying to get your omega-7s and have some omega-9s and all these like polyunsaturated fats that are actually going to benefit you and help your skin, your nails, and just feel so much better and fresher and more alive. And those highs and lows, like, I know you said that you had those low times, and I haven't had one of those for years, like honestly,
awesome.
years. And almost to the point where when you were explaining that, I'd forgotten that I actually, or thought that I don't have those periods, but I had in the past, and some really low periods, and even was suicidal as well. But I also think that's also the time that I changed my diet. And again, the lifestyle factors that I exercise probably at least 5 or 6 times a week with good sleep, it has a massive impact on mental health. Illnesses rarely get ill. And without the drinking as well, obviously up till recently, but we were on a night out with it's one of my friend's birthdays, and actually that's tell a lie, we were in Malta for a work trip, and I was so I'd been flown out to Malta. We got there on a Tuesday. This sort of tech conference, or even if you like, is on the Thursday, and on the Wednesday night everyone's sitting outside drinking, like nice warm evening, and people were asking me why I haven't drunk. And I was like, yeah, explaining the reason, like health, wellness, like I don't get these crashes, I don't feel like there's anything holding me back. And someone made a point the other day that they were asking me when the last time I was ill. And I was like, actually, I haven't been ill since I've stopped drinking, not even a cold. Typical, innit? That night, no, but as that night progressed, I woke up the next day and I started to feel a little bit like groggy. I was like, no. And then we were in the office, like throughout that day. And I was thinking, this is the aircon. Like, I'm feeling terrible. My nails have gone purple. I had to leave the office to go and stand out the sun. And I didn't make it to that night. And I was like, typical, innit? I've jinxed it. But all of those factors collectively do obviously have a big impact. So it's no surprise. At the end of the day, we're just an organism, aren't we? So you put good things in, you get good things out.
It's important. It's something that I look at. I haven't done for a while, but I should do. But making my own bread, like 3 ingredients. Yeah. That's what bread should be. And then you go to the supermarket.
Ultra Processed People by Chris
no,
Van
I haven't, but it's one of the things that
you probably know it already, but it's just
it's infuriating that you go. I tell you what it was. So I was playing hockey on a Saturday match day, and I hadn't eaten, and I was hungry. And I thought, you know what? I haven't had one in ages, but I'd just go to Tesco's and I'll have a look at a Tesco's meal deal. And it was a ham and cheese sandwich. This is just ham and cheese. So there should be 4 ingredients: bread, butter, ham, and cheese. That should be it. And the list was like Magna Carta. It was like palm oil this and rapeseed oil that and wheat flour and modified this starch and modified that starch. And I'm like, I picked up the sandwich. I looked at the part and I was like, right, and I went to Hockey Hungry. I went to Hockey Hungry because I got a bottle of water and that was it. And it's just, I think it's so difficult for people to eat healthy nowadays based on the companies that we rely upon.
These
To
foods are highly addictive, like they're with these
yeah,
flavor enhancers. But just to jump in there, one of the most fascinating things, it's about halfway through the book, is the emulsifiers, which you've obviously seen on the back of those ultra processed
yeah,
foods. And when you understand like the how your brain has, oh sorry, your stomach and your gut has more neurons actually than your brain and affects your mood, these emulsifiers essentially scrub the good bacteria out of your gut. So a lot of people think they're like gluten intolerant from eating this bread, me too in the past, whereas actually it's taking all the good bacteria out and it's affecting your digestion, how you can absorb nutrients, and obviously whatever neurons are in there, whatever, and then that affects your mood. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like that's just cut out this stuff. And such a simple fix, but the information needs to get out there, or people need to actually stick to it to feel the
yeah.
benefits.
It is so important, and I think that element would help a lot of people on two fronts. Obviously, you've got the obesity epidemic that everybody goes on about, and it's no wonder considering the food that's there.
Mm.
You know, I used to love going shopping to a super, like shopping day every 2 weeks was one of my favorite days because it'd be like, oh, new food, we get to have this and that and all the goodies and whatever. And now I go and I hate every single second of it because I pick it up and the first thing I do is look at ingredients and go, fuck, I'm not having that. Yeah, I'm not having that. And it's just, even now meat, you know, the price of, I saw something the other day. So the price of beef outweighs the price of venison at the minute, which is bonkers. Whereas venison, obviously one of my favorite meats of all time. I probably shouldn't speak too much about this because I've got a guy called Cliff Grant. He's a vegan activist. He's coming onto the podcast, so he might listen to this and make a beeline for somewhere else. But you know, in terms of the cost of eating well and the cost of um, your diet nowadays to eat good or eat well, it becomes almost like it's like a gateway where if you're poor, then you get to eat turkey Twizzlers and turkey
Yeah.
dinosaurs
No, of
and
course.
fried chips. But if you're rich, then you can have this organic thing and this organic
Mm.
thing. It's like you mentioned eggs. There was a study, I don't know where you might have come across it. I think it was in Norway, where it was a town that um, basically offered their citizens, you know, if you want, you can have 3 chickens. You know, the state will provide 3 chickens for your household. And I think there was about 40% of the households took the state up on the offer to have 3 chickens at home. Uh, what the two outcomes, there was one expected outcome and one surprise outcome. The expected outcome was it decreased food waste by up to 80%. So because they were feeding whatever food scraps to the chickens. But one of the unexpected outcomes was uh, during standardized testing within the education system, the children whose homes have these chickens, because they were consuming more eggs, their IQ points actually rose by up to like 30%. Because
Wow.
of the power of the brain food, the brain building chemicals and components within the eggs. So it actually made these kids cleverer, which is unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, it's studies like that. There was, I think it might have been Andrew Huberman actually. He was talking about how an egg has everything that you need to build a brain. That is, it has every. It's such a
All 7 amino acids or
yeah.
essential amino
Uh,
acids, the full spectrum.
it's fun. It reminds me of it. There's a, I think he's Irish, but it's a comedy sketch, and he's talking about chickens and eggs, and he was like, if chickens and eggs didn't exist, and you tried to describe them to somebody, it'd sound fucking stupid. It sounds so far fetched. It's like there's this meat football, and it's made of meat, and it's got wings, and you can eat it, and it's so good. Oh yeah, but if it's got wings, then it could probably fly away. No, it can't fly away. The wings are there just for eating. They taste really good, but they can't fucking fly anywhere, and you can catch them. It's fine, and they're a bit stupid. All right, but once you've eaten them, that's it. They're done. Well, no, if you don't eat them, they shit out more food. It's like, oh yeah, but you probably, if they shit it out, then it's probably dirty. And no, it comes pre-packed. It comes in a package. You'd, but if you don't eat the pre-packed food, guess what? It turns into another meat football, so you don't have to worry about it. It's such a good sort of comedy skit. I'll have to find out who it is, but
Chickens are the savior.
they are. That's the way it should be. But you'll still never
How do
answer what came
you
first.
feel about because I know you said you got the guy coming on the podcast and he's a vegan. So what is your stance, a middle ground on man-made meat?
I think it's stupid. I think we don't need to do it. I think the whole war on the meat industry is coming from the wrong angle, and you've got vegan activists that I can empathize and I can understand where they come from. It is a horrible industry. I wouldn't want to be in it. There's an abattoir probably 6 miles away from where I live. It's next to an Asda, funnily enough. Other supermarkets are available, and it fucking stinks. It's horrible. And you do get that feeling. It's a somber feeling when you're around it. I can almost tap into that. However, I think if you look back, and you can still see it now, Bruce Parry, when he does the Tribe documentary in the Amazon, and what's his name that does River Monsters?
Sure, not heard of that.
It's such a good program. He's basically caught every monster fish in the world.
Now, I've got Claude open here. Shall I ask?
I know. I'm going to have to find Jeremy Wade. There we go. I remembered.
Yeah, I've heard of him either.
No, it's such a good program. But when he catches a fish, or when they catch a tapir in the Amazon, like, it becomes a massive celebration, because it's like the whole tribe or the whole village take part in this celebration of everybody's going to get to eat. Everybody has a piece of the fish or a piece of the animal. Thanks is given to the animal for what it's providing, and it's given its life to provide sustenance to the village and to these people, and allowing them to live. And that connection and reverence and ritual element, it's almost religious to an extent, of killing and consuming another being. Because that's disappeared, I think that's where the problem lies, is the lack of reverence, respect, and ritualism with this element, with the killing and consuming and meat eating. That's where the problem arises. That's where the problem lies. Not with anything, not with actually consuming meat. Humans and animals do that, have done that for eons. It's how we've managed to bastardize that process to it being almost evil.
So when I said man-made meat, did you I meant lab-grown meat? Did you?
I know. Yeah,
I
just think it's the age-old thing with science. Just because scientists can and could, it doesn't mean that they should do it.
I can't see the downside. I'm all for it. I think if we can bring the cost of that down, that is going to have a hugely beneficial impact in so many areas.
This is probably my tinfoil hat again. When has anything artificial been better than the real thing? And ultimately, you can make an argument for diamonds.
You could reduce the true. You could reduce the saturated fat in something, or put more healthy fats back in.
True.
You could make it even healthier.
I just don't know enough about it, in essence. But what I do know has me skeptical about it.
I was the same, and then I thought, you're going to have a number of different brands or manufacturers, if you like, and you don't need to buy. It's not going to be like given to us by the government. You can choose based on that brand's ethics and knowing the founder and knowing what they're trying to achieve. At the end of the day, it's capitalism. The businesses that are going to succeed are the ones that make this clear, make this transparent. Yes, we don't know the long term health effects, but I think we also don't of the foods that we're eating at the moment. And it's just like you say about the turkey Twizzlers and the families that don't have a lot of money to spend on these, like, I don't know, could be like lamb, for example, where they're
Wagyu
out in the wild.
beef.
Yeah, which is a load of bollocks, apparently.
Oh God, A5 Wagyu beef. I look at that and I think there's hardly any meat there. It's all fat.
Yeah,
There's no meat. It's
yeah,
literally white. Like, I want actual meat.
yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
it is.
I'm
It's
at the moment. I think at the cost of a hamburger or a chicken burger in the States is like $150, but that obviously, as you've got more resources and more research goes into it, then that's bringing the cost down. It's going to be halved maybe in a year or two, and then that's going to come all the way down. It's going to be cheaper than it's going to be like a pound for a chicken burger or the meat
yeah.
inside that. So yeah,
I think
I'm all for it. I think it's an opportunity if anyone wants to be a man-made influencer in the a man-made meat influencer. I think there's an opportunity there because obviously it's a very
yeah.
controversial topic and
I mean,
brands are going to want to spend a lot of money to get that out.
it's really interesting because ultimately, if you can lab grow meat, whatever meat, um, in essence, nothing's off the menu
No.
because, and then you look at, human meat. Then you look at, these, endangered species. That's where, if you want to eat koala, if you want to eat, I don't know, whale shark, like there's nothing necessarily then off the menu because there's no real world ramifications because it's grown in a lab somewhere.
Yeah. Where do you stop? Do you
Um,
same with vegetables?
I yeah, it's strange. I think it could be good, but then history sort of dictates situations like that tend to get taken over by gatekeepers and capitalists that then cause problems where problems didn't need to be caused.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, a startup could do well. They get bought out for 10 million. That's at the
Yeah,
end of it. And you can't control unless obviously you go into these micro or local companies that are doing it. And that's the problem.
backroom labs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
a couple of trade shows and conferences I've seen companies that are doing this, but they're obviously
really,
it's not regulated in the UK yet. So it's only like pet foods.
hmm.
So yeah, I can imagine once they've got the labs and they're doing it and the meat for the pet foods, then they will maybe evolve. So investment
be in,
opportunity.
it'd be well. I won't be invested, but it'd be an interesting to watch. Um, so obviously, I wanted to touch on you. I don't want to spoil the book too much. I know we've spoken about it. I do recommend anybody that's interested and intrigued go out, buy it, read it. It it's not overly long, and to be fair, there's no sort of. I always feel when I'm reading a book, there's some quiet bits where you can kind of like lose a bit of interest in the book, and then you kind of come back to it 2 weeks later and say, "Oh, I'll pick up where I left." There's none of that. It's very much on point. It's very, very well written, and
I appreciate that. That's what I
if
didn't want. I was conscious of that.
it's so
Yeah.
good, and
Oh, cheers.
from a medical professional's point of view, which is my mother. My mother said, "You must be a very, very clever man to recount vividly what you've experienced within your periods of psychosis. Not many people can," she said. And she said that you must have a very strong mind to be able to recount it like quite vividly, like you have done. Um, and so, yeah, I recommend anybody to go and read it. When you've come out of that now, and you're on the road to recovery, and you mention a bit about this in the book, whereas you've been broken down to nothing, or the epitome of nothing, what you thought you were, you are no longer that thing or that entity. how do you pick yourself? How do you build yourself back from that point? Because I know we showed you your tattoo at the beginning, and that, I'm full of tattoos that mean all sorts of different things. Is it from that point? Because obviously, subsequent to that, you relapsed after that point. But would you say even in your relapse, you were still building? You were still further up from the point of the 12th of December.
12th of December was one low, but was full of anger and aggression and
Mm.
drive. A lower point than that was when I'd come out the second time and I was heavily dosed up on this medication called haloperidol, where I
Yep.
couldn't sleep at all. And I mentioned that I had to just call my mum into the bed, be like, I can't sleep. And that was probably rock bottom, at the point where I was like, being like, well, what's the point of me even being here anymore? Like, if this is me, I've lost everything, and I've got to try and explain to people like this is what I am now. I just feel like completely useless to society, and nothing's driving me. The the thing that got me through is just pure perseverance and calling for help. Like, calling for help for I couldn't people say they're self-taught or whatever, or they help themselves get out of that. I don't think I could have, to be honest. I don't think I was that strong to do it on my own. Calling for my mum, asking, there was an ex-colleague that just really helped. Just one of the only people that would just come round in the middle of the day, 3 in the afternoon, drop everything just to sit, be there, and listen to what I was going through. Put some movies on in the background, or just like hold me and just be like, "It's okay. We're going to get through it." And then from there, then my mum reached out to the early intervention psychosis team that, as I mentioned, give you the 3 years of care, and said something's not right, something has to change. And luckily, then moved from that to a different medication. And it was only at that point, and again, it wasn't me. A huge thing as well was the psychology that I managed to get for free. It's for free. It's part of what you get. During that recovery stage, it's offered to you. And when I initially had it, it wasn't quite right for me. I was doing it like telephone appointments and
Mm.
didn't really feel that connection, sort of empathy from the initial psychologist. Whereas she might have been great for someone else, not for me. Fed that back, it changed. And don't know if I can mention her name, but begins with a G if she's out there and she's watching this. She was absolutely phenomenal, like phenomenal. It was over Teams, or like whatever the system they use, like
Mhm.
virtual call, and that just over the space of maybe 3 to 4 months, I was having psychology at the start twice a week, and that spread out further. It became weekly and then once a month. But what that feeling of like I carried so much, like this weight on my shoulders, it felt like, and that just started to release more and more and more. And that was the first time, and going back to those what you said, the 7 sort of layers or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
asking why. I was like, shit, I've uncovered stuff that from when I was like 7, and then 11, and then through this. And then once that had gone, I just felt like a new person, like completely weightlessness. And that has carried on throughout. Yes, I get the blips, but the same
Yeah,
things
yeah.
apply. I know what to look for, even if it's using AI to just be vulnerable and say exactly what I'm going through, and having that mirror back. And obviously speaking to my wife that's a counselor, and just saying like, I'm fucked, really. That's it. Like, I am rock
we
bottom.
all we all
Yeah.
are to an
Yeah.
extent, but I think
I'm being like,
it's
I'll stop. I'm not going to hide it. Like, that's it.
you
But
mentioned
then you
something.
can't, you know what you're working with then. And it's like,
Yeah,
it can't get worse. Let's just, I need someone to listen and someone to
it's
understand, and then start to have that space to rebuild.
it's so important. Like you mentioned something that when you uncover things when you were like 7 and 11, and going through stuff myself. I wouldn't necessarily say I've had a traumatic childhood. I don't think so. I mean,
Me neither. Yeah.
yeah, nothing. In the world standards of traumatic, I definitely
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
And I think I've gone through certain experiences, whether that be relationships that I would class as traumatic, and subsequent to my marriage breaking up. That was when I started my therapeutic journey with therapy, and I tried CBT, which you mentioned in the book, and that did nothing for me. It What it felt to me was right, so we're going to sit round, talk about how shit my life is, but then we're not going to fix it. We're just going to talk about it. And then I'd leave that and think, oh, well, I'd leave the session after an hour and think, oh, well, that's just made me feel 10 times worse, because they've agreed with everything that I've said, that this is how shit my life is. And we haven't now got anything in place. They've given me some coping mechanisms, but I don't want to
Yep.
cope. I want to improve.
Yep.
So I gave
Exactly
up.
the same.
I gave up CBT, and I started EMDR, which I
I
was
haven't heard of that.
very suspicious of. So I want to get the. I always get the anagram wrong, but it's something to do with the eyes. I always say eye memory displacement reprogramming, but it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's what EMDR is. So ultimately what it is if you have a belief or a memory, it kind of starts off like CBT, of talking about your life and your upbringing and certain things, and then the therapist will clock on to a certain memory or a certain thing that will have a belief, you will have a inherent belief about, and something that's maybe limiting you. And then what starts with is you sit in the chair still, don't move, and she will hide. Some people have lights. She used to have a pen, and they'd move the pen from side to side. What it would be would initially would they would move it fast and up and down, and your eyes would follow the pen, and it becomes uncomfortable for your eyes. And the uncomfortableness comes with the limiting belief. I believe I'm not good enough. And then it turns into, what would you rather believe? And you would rather believe that you are good enough. And what happens is the movement slows and becomes easier and becomes more comfortable for your eyes. And over so many sessions, the limiting belief disappears, and the belief that you would rather attach to that memory takes its place. It was so good for me, brilliant. Imogen, she was called, and completely changed my life. But there were certain things within them sessions where something would crop up, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, that's why I behave this way now, is because that happened back then, and I've never made that connection at all,
Yep.
and that's why it's having an effect in my life."
Eh.
Um, and then from that, I went to onto life coaching, which was slightly different but similar techniques. Now, the reason why I bring it up is I've always been a big supporter of therapy, or counseling or psychology in that sense. Would you say the same? Would you say that I always say everybody should be in therapy at least once a month, just as a like a check-in and a sort of release, and it helped. In the state, I lived in the States for 2 years, and everybody does it. It's a normal thing to do. Family therapy, marriage therapy,
Yep.
counseling. It's a part of life. And when I say I've been in it, people, oh, why? What was wrong? It's like, nothing's wrong. It's just it's something that keeps me level and keeps me
Mm.
going and keeps me. Is it something that you would recommend everybody, regardless
Yep.
of whether they've gone through
Yep.
psychosis or not?
100%. Everyone deserves psychology or therapy, counseling, 100%. And if you can't afford it, like, there are obviously free alternatives through Mind or telephone therapy, or use AI with a really
Mhm.
strong rise prompt. Give it the role, what you want it to be like. As we said earlier about the instruct, specify, and then give an example of what you want it to do. My wife might not like me saying this, but we've also used it between us as like a mediator, like couple therapy. When we're having a dispute
Mhm.
about something, let's do this. And then it's like, and it's better when you're doing like the dictation or the voice
Yeah, yeah.
response back. Okay, now it's my turn to respond. I'll say this, and it gives that in between, because you can get so caught up in what you want to say back, but you're not actually listening to that person. Or, yeah, I mean, my my parents, if they're listening to this as well, they're terrible for it, or they were terrible for it. I'm absolutely fine. I don't need that. Like, I don't need therapy or counselor. What? Who do you think this is for? It's not just for people like mental patients. Like, you can have it even if you think you're fine. If you think you're fine and absolutely perfect, apologies, my phone's ringing.
It's okay. Don't worry.
It's my mum. She must be listening. She's telling me to shut up.
She's heard.
Oh, she definitely heard. Right.
I love
it. If you're in that mindset, I would say then you're the type of people that need it more than anyone. And we had family therapy that was free, and so much came of it. We only actually had 2 sessions as a family, but that allowed it. That was like the root of like what we can uncover from here, of like where the problems may have occurred. And then my dad had 1-to-1 sessions, and I don't know, he might have had a course of say 6 to 10 sessions or whatever. And what came from that is like amazing. And the relationship that I have with my dad, it was good anyway, but now it's like unbelievable. And like I mean, we have family round maybe like 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times a week we see our family, and it's just like have a nice hug, and then what we're explaining, like, it's always like we carry that on. And if it wasn't for what I went through, we wouldn't have that relationship now, thanks to the psychology and therapy. So yeah, everyone deserves it. Do what you can. If it's yes, if the cost is off putting, maybe you have 1 session every 2 months. Try it. A lot of people haven't had it out there, but I've never heard anyone say they've had a bad experience. And if they have, it's probably like, well, what were you like in that session? So go into that session with an open mind. Listen, stop and think before answering questions, and really look inwards. It sounds simple, but a lot of
It's
people don't do
difficult.
it. Yeah. Take the time and really try and process them thoughts. Ask why, or let them guide you into asking those questions, and you will uncover stuff. And I know now I still uncover stuff. Luckily, like I said, my wife's a counsellor, but I would still have counselling externally, that a different perspective that doesn't know what we're like day to day, to
It's
really uncover
important. I
more.
think
And they'll
it's funny what you said. Like one of my last, I think, in fact, I think it was Kathleen that said it's funny that people in therapy are often in therapy because of people that actually need therapy. That's that's the reason
so
why most
really
people
what
are
you're
in
doing
therapy.
is you're creating this collateral effect that if everyone gets better, passes down through generations, the world could be so much more of a better place if more people had therapy.
It's so important. I know it's helped me in terms of fatherhood, like the way that I am with my daughter, and the way I don't necessarily parent in a traditional sense. I'm very open with her. If she asks a question, if appropriate, I generally give her the actual answer. I won't sugarcoat much.
Nice.
And the reason for stuff like that is it's logic. Might be flawed logic, but it's my logic in terms of the fact that, well, I'd rather learn properly about XYZ from somebody that's been there and done that than from her friends on a park one day when they're talking about something that they, another 12, 13-year-old doesn't really have a clue about. So it's almost like exposing her to things that maybe people take umbrage to just in terms of protection. So, drugs is one thing. It's rife within society all over. I will explain to her what drugs are and what they do and what you can expect, because I don't ever want her to be in a situation where there's some substance present, as it was for me when I was young and that age, that, well, it was weed at that age, so it was cannabis, and it's like, oh, it's really cool that, I'm going to have a bit of that, and I want a bit of that, and I want to start smoking that. And I didn't really at that age know what it was, what it did, what the ramifications are, how to do it safely, whether to do it at all, because nobody ever had that conversation with me. And what I learned about cannabis was from 13, 14-year-olds that just a couple of dipshits down a park smoking a joint on a fucking playground. Whereas if I'd had somebody to actually say, right, this, if you smoke it, this is what you expect to happen. It can be bad, it can be good, it can be a good experience, but, it depends on where you take it. It's all about containers and who you're with and making sure you're safe. And it's that sort of element through therapy that's given me the confidence to sort of do that and be that sort of breaking the mold of sort of.
No, that's really important. Yeah, you're told by society that no, that's not bad. You can't talk to your kids about that. Or why? Like, if I knew about MDMA dosage back then, like, and I look back
Yeah,
now and I didn't, I think, Jesus Christ, like that was so dangerous. But someone to guide you through that, and you'll that will come back to you in years to come,
yeah,
where she'll feel like she can come to you with anything, and that
anything.
you're open, you're not going to judge, and that's really important. And I
Well, it's
think that should be encouraged more.
you mentioned like in the book, not specifically, but I know you mentioned in terms of cannabis and how drug-induced psychosis. My missus works a lot with that side of things in substance misuse um, charity, and the one of the big things for me, I know I used to when I was younger and partying before I was dad and responsible and older, was cocaine, and loads of people. I mean, you can go into any pub of an evening on a Saturday night, and it's like an orchestra of sniffs in the male toilets.
Beers in a
Um,
bag.
but it's then understanding, or I then found out subsequent to this, that when you mix cocaine and alcohol, it creates a completely different substance within your system called cockathylene.
Right? Yeah.
And cockathylene is one of the strongest depressants known to man. There's people that have come to or come to the senses with ropes in the middle of sort of a field, walking to a bridge and thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Because of the state that this cockathylene puts you in.
Now,
Um,
Lewis, if we need any part of this podcast to go viral, we need this part here.
yeah, well, I never knew it
Send
at
ads to
all.
this part. No, this is so important.
It's and the thing is the fact that if people knew this, it's not me saying don't do cocaine, but everybody's their own boss. Do one or the other. Don't do both together, because that's where the danger lies. It's not in cocaine itself or in alcohol, even though we know alcohol's a depressant anyway. Don't do both together. Do one or the other, because that's where the danger lies, is mixing them two substances. I never knew that.
No. Wow.
So I've frequently done both
Explains
together.
a lot. Yeah.
To
As most
explain
people would.
why you wake up in the morning feeling like death, is because this substance is so destructive to your system. Looping all the way back around, and we've been through therapy and psychology. That psychology help you sort of build. When do you decide then? Is it just day by day, or is it, right, I need to formulate a plan? Do you have to think big, or do you think in small incremental steps?
Definitely small incremental steps, and that was led by the psychologists.
Okay.
And I knew over the weeks that I started to feel better. And then, so this went on, like I say, for 3 or 4 months. And in the first month, I couldn't wait to talk to her again, like for the next session. I was like, she listens so well, and I can, these changes are huge within me. I feel so much better and more positive, and that level of anxiety and my heart rate being at a certain level, like 90 or 100 beats per minute as a baseline, I can feel that dropping. I feel like I'm less shaky. I could feel it in my body. And as we got into the end of the second month, early into month 3, then I was like, oh, I've got this session, like I've got one a week, and I've got this session, like, oh, I'd rather do this now. And I sort of got to the point where I wasn't getting anything from those sessions, and
Yeah.
knew that was probably enough of what I needed. And she explained that, yeah, when this happens, you've got what you need from it, and we can push it back to every 2 weeks. And yeah, it just sort of turned into a general conversation, really, to check that I was doing the things that we suggested, and if anything else had come up. But I genuinely felt so much better. And one of the things that came from it was just me disagreeing more and just speaking my mind in general day-to-day conversations, where I'd always like be a yes man, or my mates would say like, oh, come on, let's go here. And I'd be like, oh yeah, go on then. Cause I'd feel bad, or like I'm letting them
Yeah.
down if I wasn't. And just putting those boundaries in place, and they've stood there. And I'm like, actually, I can do whatever I want to do, really. I'm much more free than what I think.
I'm a grown up. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, it's
it
just
is
one of the
difficult.
best.
I must admit,
without the guilt.
yeah, it is a difficult thing to do. I do it. I think as I've got older, I've become. People say antisocial. I've just become a lot more particular with how I spend my time. And it's not. I think I mentioned right at the start. I've got a really low tolerance for bullshit. I just can't. Even with my missus, you know, she's a bit of a chatterbox. So when she comes home from work and she'll be talking about things and she'll say, "Oh, this happened and this happened," and I'm like, "Get to the point. I need substance. I need a point to this." Uh, I've learned to sort
Men
of
are very factual and logical. Women are very emotional.
yeah,
but we have to meet in the middle.
That's it. I've learned to sort of just let her vent, and then I'll be like, I will then say, was there a point to that? Was I meant to get something from that? And she'll like go, oh, well, yeah, X, Y, Z. And I'm like, right, that's all I wanted. I just wanted that point. But I think as you become, I think as you get older, especially probably past 30, that's when it becomes really, really important how you spend your you start to view time as a commodity. And,
yeah, sure.
you know, it becomes so important of where you place, you know, I know throughout my youth, I've wasted weeks doing stupid, you know, video. As much as I love video games, I like video games. I love playing it. It takes me out of this world and out of my head for an hour or so. But I never used to put a limit on it. So I could be like, I'd spend like 30 hours a week playing a video game when I was young. And it's like, that's 30 hours in
you could have
essence
learned
wasted.
Japanese in a month.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as you get older, you become, I don't know whether it's the passage of time and you realize the sort of, on the law of averages, half your life is done.
Yeah,
That time becomes more precious and you think, right, well, this is what I want to do with it instead. And that permeates towards people is the fact that, you know, I've had friends of 16 years that I used to speak to every day that we no longer speak at all, for various reasons. But it's like, well, I'm kind of putting my effort into something that I'm not really getting anything from anymore.
Had exactly the same thing.
And it's really hard to face it, and it's upsetting. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it's like, and it doesn't mean that the 16 years that I've been friends with them is bullshit. It just means that you get to that point of like, this has kind of run its course. C'est la vie, you know, love you, see you in a bit. And I think as you get older, that's where it sort of starts to change, where you need to make them decisions more often and be a bit more brutal.
Yeah. I mean, we
it.
don't have kids, but I'm already that's happening now, and it's like, yeah, let's allocate our time. Let's get the most bang for your buck out your time, but almost visioning like, okay, yeah, when we have kids, it's a full-time job. Just the organization I've heard with the kids, so it's
one of the best things in the world, though. Honestly,
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It's awesome, and it does change your perspective overnight. Literally overnight. Like as soon as that little bundle of sick piss and shit comes into the world that you love beyond any explanation, everything just changes in terms of your priorities, your perspective, the way that you think, the way that you act. Inadvertent. It's not a conscious decision either. Strange.
Yeah,
Such a surreal.
It's similar to a couple of weeks ago. I saw on LinkedIn Joe James Smith, the PT.
Yes.
One of the co-founders of obviously Newtonic, and he did a post where he was saying, I could really relate to it. He's like, for years I'd be saying to my mates, I don't think I'll ever be a dad. And then it came and they didn't plan it at all. And now he's a dad. He's like, there's something very humbling about whatever job you've got, whatever boss you have to report to, money, there's nothing more important than that little one.
No.
And I'm like, sold.
It's also it kind of just puts every bit of priority or every priority that you had previous, this just supersedes it by not just by a little bit, by tenfold. Everything, every ounce of motivation that becomes almost your muse.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's everything that I do. I always speak to her about. In fact, I'll ask now because I was speaking to her yesterday about me interviewing you today, and I was explaining to her what you've been through, and her question was, she said, "Will you ask him when you're going through your delusion?" I nearly forgot this. When you're going through your psychosis and it's you're in that delusion, because I mentioned the Harry Potter one, because she loves Harry Potter. The one that made me laugh as well. But do other people, so i.e., if you then at that point believe that you're Harry Potter, does your mum and dad become Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon? And does, I know that there's a bit that you mentioned where you're half expected Professor McGonagall to be there when you
and
do
I'm
other
picturing
people
that right now, that moment.
do other people become part of that
No.
delusion? No.
No. You're constantly looking and waiting, and it never
And it
comes
just doesn't
about.
come.
Yeah. As I was in that I went through the doors, and there's this little common room, and there's everyone around I'm asking the others, like, where is this room? Like, what is this? Like, is this it? And they're like, yeah, man. Like, do you want a fag? Like, opening up their tins of baccy, like, oh, like, they're talking about this sort of stuff, or like, oh, come on, like, where are you from then? It's like, wait, no, hold on, like, there's more to this. And then, like, the days go by, and you're like, oh yeah, let's think about something else then, because that never come about. But no, it's all in your mind, and
It's just something that you're
always
expecting
looking
that
for
doesn't happen.
you're expecting, you're looking for something, you're seeing signs of clues. I know a lot of people see like stickers on lampposts and follow those, and then they can just get themselves lost just thinking that they're being directed by a higher power.
Yeah.
It never comes about.
Right. Well,
really good question, to be fair.
Yeah, no, she
really
it's the
good
innocence
question.
of a child.
I've not been asked that.
She might be disappointed with the answer though, because I think she was expecting.
Well, no, that maybe
I want psychosis.
Not to,
yeah. But yeah, she's always been a massive help with the podcast as well, and this is you'll have experienced it, and this ties in with where I wanted to go. Now you're running a marketing agency. It's your completely different career to QSing. And I went from construction, 17 years in construction, to podcasting. And even if you hadn't had mental health problems, that is a big daunting thing to make such a radical career change. It has been for me anyway. And she's helped me. She's been almost that grounding anchor of like, fuck, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, and it's almost, I'm doing it because I want to be happy. I don't want to be the person that's up at 6 a.m. getting to site for 7:30, missing her going to school, not waking her up in the morning and making her breakfast and taking her to school and kissing her goodbye and picking her up from school and stuff. And I think I've mentioned it before. So I was having the crisis of confidence before it started. And I'm like, I'm from the north of England, as you can tell with my dulcet tones. And I'm thinking like, I'm a lad from the north of England. I've not done anything of any notoriety. I'm not famous in any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm particularly successful in any area. I've been semi-successful in career, but that doesn't really matter. Everybody is within a job. Who am I to speak to these people that, like yourself, that have written a book and, a bestseller? Like, who am I to speak to these people? And I was panicking. Like the first interview was with a guy called Carl Jones, ultra marathon runner, stroke survivor. He's doing this year actually fastest known time of the Welsh Coast Path, which is like 800 odd miles. Like crazy guy, but unbelievable. Like, I'm Lewis from the north of England that don't run for a fucking bus. Why am I interviewing somebody that's done this? So I was panicking, and I spoke to her in the car, and I said I knew I needed that, almost that childhood abandonment. that childhood of like, I'm doing this anyway. I'm going to climb this tree. I'll figure out what to do at the top when I get to the top.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I said, like, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? What would you do? And she thought for a minute. This is the best piece of advice I've gotten, and I still use it. Her reply was, well, Keir Starmer's a dickhead, and he runs a country. And I went, yeah, that's fine. I don't know why I'm worried. I don't know why I'm frightened. Like, it makes complete sense. He's an idiot and runs a country. I'm more intelligent than he is. I'm more well-rounded than he is. I lie a lot less than he does. Of course I can speak to these people.
I saw Chris Williamson live, and he said a similar sort of thing. He went, you go all the way up the chain, you could speak to Jordan Peterson, idiots all the way up. Don't worry about it. You get that imposter syndrome, do it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and
there's no different. People are people. It's like it's what's in here. It doesn't matter what you've done. It's that connection, that empathy, that's listening. It's communication, the most important thing, and just do it.
100%. You have seen it in the world of construction. It's like you'll have people that are in the hierarchy superior to you.
Who shouts the loudest? Yeah.
Yeah. But they are just scrambling exactly the same as you because they're just another human being. They don't have
everyone's winging it.
Clue.
Yeah.
Everybody is winging it. But then we have this illusion that person's more well-rounded than I am, more intelligent than I, and they're just they'll be on the other side of the screen panicking, wondering, "Fuck, I've just said something. This, I've said that."
Yeah.
And
similar
once
to
that
the spotlight effect, isn't it? I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yes. And once that illusion breaks, everything just becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah,
there's not as much pressure.
That. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the pitfalls with social media. Is everybody seems to have their life together, their perfect life, when in reality it's all show, smoke and mirrors, and you know you don't see it. So how do you, to wrap up, because I understand we're at 2 hours 10 minutes now. I told you to go quick.
It's been great.
How do you get from where you are to where you are now? Is it just determination bit by bit, or is it what I want to try and get across is for people that may be dealing with something, whether it be a family member that has a relative or a son or a partner that is going through psychosis or just come out of it, what's the road look like for them? And I know it's obviously a big question to ask for a small answer, but
no, I have 3 things. So one is finding something that you love, so that genuinely like makes you want to get up in the morning, and that you're a little bit passionate about, and you're like, oh, I want to learn about that. I want to watch YouTube. I want to listen to a podcast about that. Second thing is don't be afraid to ask for help from others. And the third thing is discipline and resilience. So it's 4, because that thing, you might love that thing, but there's going to be the really tricky times, difficult days, difficult points in relationships, whether that be with whoever, anyone, like clients, friends, family. There's going to be really tricky points, but persevere, hang in there, and just know that it will pass, and just keep going. Just keep chipping away. There's points where I'm like, fucking, I'm getting nowhere. I'm 2 years in, I'm nowhere. You keep going, just keep chipping away, and you think, bloody hell, like I've heard, like you said, don't compare yourself to Stephen Bartlett, millionaire at 27, 28, whatever it was, or someone that's launched this SaaS startup and had a VC come in and just inject loads of cash. That's not the reality. The reality is it takes time, perseverance, building relationships, which takes time. Referrals take time, and just keep at it. Keep at it.
Nobody can do what you do, even if they're doing the same. It's like with the podcasting space, it's difficult not to go like compare myself to Stephen Bartlett. Oh, well, he's got this and he's got this guest, and the way he interviews and the way it's really structured and clean and clinical. Yeah, but he's not a lad from the north of England that has a perception that I have, which is I see certain things that he doesn't know about because he hasn't experienced.
Sure.
Like, for instance, we haven't even spoke about Man United, which I am so happy at the minute. I am just so elated that we've managed to actually
Title
string
charge.
some good football together. It's unbelievable.
Wonderful time.
But people won't have experienced the world or had the journey that I've had. And I think for anybody that, you know, if I can add to what you've put, which is unbelievable, that perseverance and perception are the two values in my life which are so important. You can't ever fail if you don't give up, ever.
Yep.
It's
Can only
impossible to
learn.
fail. Yeah, you can't fail at something if you never give up. And
Yeah.
the same with perception. You know, I was speaking about this the other day in terms of people can watch the exact same scenario play out and come to two completely different conclusions. And it's all based on their perception of that said event. And it's like, you know, you might wake up in the morning and think, oh, fuck's sake, I've got to get up. At least you get to get up. There's somebody that's not able to get up. There's somebody that's died in the sleep. There's somebody that doesn't have use of their legs. There's somebody that is got cerebral palsy that can't move on their own and they need assistance. Think yourself lucky. Change that perception. And it's one of the biggest lessons that I try and instill in my daughter is, you know, if she's got a problem, thank you. You know, I think Joe Rogan puts it perfectly. He says, like, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm tired, I think, good, I'm tired. You know, I'm happy. I'm glad that I'm tired because it means I've got to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think
seize the day.
Yeah,
carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Yeah, it's
You've
so important. you want to trademark that before somebody
maybe that
takes
might be
it.
the next tattoo.
Oh, don't go with that. So if people want to find you, Mike, and want to find your book and want to connect with you if they need to, how do they do so?
Best place is mikemcdonnell.co.uk. So you'll find everything on there. There's links to the socials on there. So I've got a YouTube channel, Instagram, LinkedIn, but everything's in that one spot, including my book's not sold directly through my website, but the link is to find that on Amazon. And the audio book is being recorded at the moment.
I saw that the other day.
Chapter 6 of 9. So we're getting there slowly. I don't know how people have. They've said, oh my God, like you were saying earlier, I picked up your book and there was no dull patches through it. I read it all in a day. And I'm thinking, how quickly are you reading? Because I can't read this in a day. I've been recording this like, okay, I don't have a loads of time. I'm trying to grow a business, but even trying to like read through it myself for the audiobook. And I would expect I said 3 weeks from the moment of recording. It's probably going to be another 3 weeks by the time it goes through the sound production, editing and stuff that I've outsourced. So yeah, looking forward to releasing that. That'll be on all platforms.
But the fact that you're recording it yourself is a big thing as well. Like, it's so
I was
difficult.
apprehensive to, yeah. People said to me, you have to.
You've got to.
I'd just written that book and it'd take me 5 years. And I thought, I'm just going to get someone else to read it. I'm happy to pay. And then the people say, no, it needs to come from you. It needs to be your voice. And I'm a pause in it. Yeah.
Big believer, non-fiction needs to be read by the author. Fiction can be anybody, that's fine. But non-fiction definitely needs to be from the words of the author, because I think you engage a bit more. You understand the subtle connotations within what you've written.
Yeah. Yeah, and the tonality of my voice is coming through at certain points, and at those points, and I'm sort of the bit of laughter and humour in my voice, or the dark side times where it needs a bit of a pause. I'm like, I'm glad that I've read this.
Yeah,
read it out loud myself.
It's like the Harry Potter moment in the book. I kind of felt guilty for laughing because it is funny, but ultimately it is a very like vulnerable, sad moment, because it's like, my God, he was getting better and now he's not. And it's like, I'm laughing, and then I messaged to my missus. I said, oh, this is what's happening. And her response was, well, that wasn't very nice by that nurse, was it? And I'm like, well,
yeah, I know. No. Apparently that's what they do.
But it is funny. Like,
Yeah, and it worked. It worked. It
yeah.
got me there willingly.
And I think that's the thing is if
They're
you
going to
read
have to
that,
change that now. If anyone listens to this or read the book, I've spilt the beans now. They're going to have to change it. I'll be going somewhere else.
yeah, it is so good. So I do implore anybody to
I
visit the
appreciate that.
website, buy the book. Even if you're not interested in the actual real world ramifications of psychosis, it's a fucking good read. It really is. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. I've enjoyed every single second of this. Hopefully, we can top off a really good day with a United win tonight.
Yeah. 5 in a row.
And
United
then
Strand is cutting his hair.
That's it. He gets his hair cut. I honestly think he should let Michael Carrick do it. Personally, I would if I was him.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very, very much. And
I appreciate you having me on. Cheers, Lewis. Thanks, mate.
My pleasure. See you later, everybody.